At midnight, beneath the creak of old wood and candlelight, she whispered, "Wait for me." That was the last time I saw Laura. Her face framed by the golden halo of the flame, her eyes holding a universe of promises. We grew up here, on this farm, our lives intertwined with the seasons, our secrets buried beneath the roots of the old oak tree. She was the wild rose in a field of wheat, and I was just the farmer, content to watch her bloom. That night, she told me she was leaving, heading to the city, a place of steel and glass, so different from our world of earth and sky. She promised she'd return, that the city was just a stepping stone, a way to build a future for us. A farmer's wife needs more than just calloused hands and a hopeful heart, she'd teased. Her voice, a soft melody against the barn's silence. I made her a promise in return. I'd wait. I'd keep the farm running, keep our home ready. I carved our initials into the main beam of the barn, a silent testament to our bond. E and L, forever. The first year was the hardest. Her letters arrived every week, crisp envelopes filled with stories of towering buildings, bustling crowds, and the endless symphony of city life. She described the art galleries, the theaters, the way the city lights blurred into a river of gold at night. I'd read them out loud to Bessie, my old dairy cow, in the quiet of the barn. Her words were a lifeline, a fragile bridge connecting my world of dirt and stars to her new one of concrete and electricity. I wrote back, telling her about the new calf, the way that corn was growing taller than me, how the sunset still painted the sky in shades of orange and purple, just like she remembered. I tucked a dried wildflower from our meadow into every letter. The second year, the letters became shorter, less fracas. Once a month, then every few months. The vibrant descriptions were replaced with tired phrases. "Work is busy," she'd write. "The city is draining." The wildflowers I sent were never mentioned. I started to notice a change in the farm, too. Or maybe the change was in me. The familiar creak of the barn door sounded lonelier. The rustle of the wind through the wheat fields whispered her name, but it felt more like an echo than a promise. Still, I held on. A promise is a promise. I repaired the fence, planted her favorite sunflowers along the path, and kept the porch light on every single night, a tiny beacon in the vast darkness. Years bled into one another. 5, then 7. The letters stopped altogether. The silence was a heavy blanket. The villagers would give me pitying looks when I went to town for supplies. "Still waiting, Liam?" Old Mr. Henderson would ask, shaking his head. "That city swallows people whole." But I'd just smile and nod. What could I say? That the promise was etched, not just in wood, but in my very soul. That hope, even a flicker of it, was better than the cold emptiness of giving up. I spoke to her in the quiet moments, to the stars above the barn, telling her I was still here. One autumn afternoon, a sleek, unfamiliar car pulled up the long, dusty driveway. My heart hammered against my ribs. A woman stepped out, dressed in clothes I'd only seen in magazines. Her hair was different. Her face carried the subtle lines of time and a life I knew nothing about. It was Alara, but it wasn't. The wild rose was gone, replaced by an elegant, manicured flower. She looked around, at the sunflowers, at the freshly painted porch, at me. There was a flicker of something in her eyes, nostalgia, maybe even regret. She wasn't alone. A man stepped out of the driver's side, followed by a little girl who hid behind her mother's leg. "Liam?" she said, her voice strained, unfamiliar. "This is my family." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. My promise, the one that had been the bedrock of my life for a decade, crumbled into dust. I looked at the little girl, who peeked at me with wide, curious eyes that held the same shade of hazel as Alara's. There was no anger in my heart, just a profound, hollowing sadness. I invited them in. What else was there to do? I served them lemonade on the porch, the same porch where we'd planned our entire future. She spoke of her life, her husband's career, their home in a quiet suburb. She said she was sorry, that she never meant to break her promise. That life hoost happened. I listened, nodding. the farmer still tending to things, even a broken heart. I saw her eyes drift towards the barn, towards the beam where our initials were carved. A silent question hung between us. After they left, leaving behind a cloud of dust and the scent of expensive perfume, I walked into the barn. The last rays of sunlight streamed through the gaps in the old wood, illuminating the carving. E&L. Forever. Forever had turned out to be 10 years. I traced the letters with my finger. It wasn't a symbol of a broken promise anymore. It was a scar, a reminder of a life I'd waited for. A life that was never meant to be mine. But as I stood there, surrounded by the familiar scent of hay and earth, I realized something. The farm wasn't just a place I was keeping for her. It had become a part of me, tending to the land, watching the seasons turn, seeing life spring from the soil. This was my story. My promise to her had anchored me here, but in doing so, it had allowed my own roots to grow deep. I wasn't just waiting anymore. I was living. That night, for the first time in 10 years, I turned off the porch light. The next morning, I woke with the sun, the same way I always did. I fed the chickens, milkied Bessie, granddaughter, and headed out to the fields. The air was crisp, full of the promise of a new day, a new beginning. The whispers in the barn had finally fallen silent, replaced by the steady, comforting rhythm of my own life. And for the first time, it felt like enough. Thank you so much for watching my story unfold. If you connected with this tale, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more stories from the heart. I'll see you in the next one.